Kevin Johnson is the CEO of Secure Ideas. Kevin came to security from a development and system administration background. He has many years of experience performing security services for Fortune 100 companies, and in his spare time, he contributes to many open source security projects. Kevin joins us to explain OWASP SamuraiWTF and how developers can successfully learn about AppSec and use AppSec web app pen testing tools. Kevin also shares his thoughts on the recent departure of Zap from OWASP as it makes its way to the Secure Software Foundation. We hope you enjoy this conversation with Kevin Johnson.
None of the top 50 university programs teach secure coding in their curriculum. At Security Journey, we help enterprises reduce vulnerabilities through application security education for developers and everyone in the SDLC. With over 400 up-to-date lessons created by industry-leading security experts and a programmatic approach that creates security champions, our program has increased AppSec knowledge as much as 85%. Visit securityjourney.com to try our training today.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Application Security Podcast. I'm Robert Hurlbut, Principal Application Security Architect at Acquia, and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Romeo. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Robert. Chris Romeo, CEO of Kerr Ventures. Super excited to hear and talk with Kevin Johnson today because I got a chance to meet Kevin and hear him give a talk at InfoSec World last year, right before a hurricane almost swept us all into the Atlantic Ocean, which was a fun experience all to itself. But I'm excited to dive in with him. I know he's got a lot of good stuff to share. He's got a lot of experience in AppSec as well, and has been around for a while. So
that's a nice way of saying I'm old.
Well, I mean, if you may. On the video, you may notice that I'm sporting quite a gray look. I'm realizing as I look at myself in the camera here, like, what happened? I was young just recently.
I laugh about the hurricane pushing us into the Atlantic because as somebody who was born and raised in Florida, that hurricane was like, yeah, whatever. And I want to be very clear, people who don't know, it it's bad for the people that got hit by it. But as somebody who's lived here, it's like, yeah, it's a hurricane, whatever. Yeah. But the people that were visiting InfoSec World, right, that had flown in and everything, oh my gosh, we're all going to die. We're like, no, we're not going to die.
So I did learn an interesting disaster recovery principle, though, while in InfoSec World.
Okay.
The best place to be in the continental United States in the event of a hurricane is Disney. World. Because they have their own power grid, they have their own water facilities. They also have this motto that it's the happiest place on earth, and so they don't want, even in the midst of a hurricane, they don't want you to have a bad time. And there will be food and supplies, and if the power goes out, they'll get it back up like immediately because someone's going to be unhappy. So
they are absolutely. If you're going to be somewhere, if you have to shelter in place at the mouse. And so.
All right, we should probably talk about Kevin's security origin story. So, Kevin, we always start these things off by, what's your security origin story? You can go as far back into your history as you want to, but we'll let you kind of tell us where you're coming from here.
Well, there was this time when a man and woman had a special relationship, and then
probably jump a little bit past that,
a little further along.
So okay. Notice I didn't say loving relationship; I said special. And so there's a reason I changed my name when I turned 18. But I'm actually a nerd. I've been a nerd for a very long time. And anybody who knows me can say, yeah, he's a nerd. And I graduated high school barely, and I got a job writing code and running a bulletin board system. I'm not going to comment on how old you guys are, but I will point out that you both started nodding when I said BS.
Yeah, we know what that is. We know what that is.
So I ran a Lantastic network, which I'm embarrassed to say I ran a Lantastic network for this company, and I wrote code. And the code I was writing was for a company that had hired what we would call a startup now, but in 1991 was just a new company. And they got hired to write this code to control the power grid. And I was assigned to the project. I'm an 18-year-old stupid kid. I'm now a 50-year-old stupid man, but that's, not much has changed. And I was asked to write code. And what should really worry you is that some of that code still runs in the power grid today, which worries me. But so I got started in IT, and then I did development and administration. And notice I didn't say I did any of them well, but I bounced. My role was nerd, and companies would hire me and whatever. And then a number of years went by, and I started working at Blue Cross of Florida. And when I was at Blue Cross, I was one of their web administrators. So I ran, the infrastructure that ran all the applications and stuff like that. And I worked quite a bit with the networking team. And I was interested in security. I will acknowledge that when I was a kid, I might have done stupid stuff with phreaking and wares and whatever, right? And so I was involved, was interested, and we were rolling out intrusion detection systems at Blue Cross. And I bought an O'Reilly book. Is O'Reilly even still around as a publisher? Yeah, okay. Yeah. And I bought an O'Reilly book it was called Snort and Other IDS Systems. And I'm reading the book because that's what I do. And I found an error in it because it talked about this project called ACID that was the web interface for Snort. And the book, the introduction to that chapter said something along the lines, it's been a long time, but something along the lines of, even though it hasn't been updated in 5 years or whatever, it is still considered the best interface, blah, 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 blah. And I remember it clearly. I don't know why I remember this clearly, but I remember it clearly. I'm sitting on the couch in my house, and I went, oh my God, I found an error in an O'Reilly book. And here was what the error was. There was no way I was running software on my network that had not been updated for 5 years. There's no way. I'm not that person, right? I found out I am that person, that ACID had not been updated in 5 years. And so I got a bug in my ear and decided that I would help fix that. And so I reached out to, I'm blanking on the guy, Roman Danilau. And I said, hey, man, can I help? Right? It's an open source project. Can I help you? And he ignored me. Maybe he didn't get the email, right? I don't know. Like I say, he ignored me. That's how I felt. And I wrote a few times. I even wrote and said, look, you don't have to give me credit. I don't need anybody to know I'm doing this, but I've got some updates. I want to fix this, help me out. And I was an idiot. I didn't know how to do it any other way. And he ignored me. And so I forked the project. And I'm like, done. I can do this. That was a mistake. Here's my recommendation. Don't ever start an open source project. Just don't do it. And I love open source. And so I started BASE, which is the Basic Analysis and Security Engine. I actually came up with what it meant after I came up with the acronym. And contrary to what Mike Poore thought, I was doing acid-base chemistry. Mike thought it was a drug reference because acid and freebase. Mm-hmm. And so whatever you want to think. And that's how I got started. And I started doing this. And it was the perfect thing because we actually ran base at Blue Cross. So I had a production network to test things on. And I started running it. And that led to me getting more involved in security. I actually went out to a SANS event and took a class from Mike Poore. In the class, he taught my software, which was weird. He actually had me stand up and present that section, which meant he got paid for the day, but I got to do the work. And and I've given him crap since then. And he took me and some other students out to dinner. At dinner, he said, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said gushingly, I'd like to be you. I'd like to be a consultant. I'd like to be teaching people. I believe very firmly that I am where I am today because I was taught by people being willing to share their information, and that it would be disgusting of me not to do the same. And so I said, I want to be you. And he and I talked a little bit. Hung out in the hotel afterwards, in the lobby, discussing what that meant. And I got hired by InGuardians within the year. and became a consultant, worked there for a while, and then started my own thing, which will be 13 years this month. 13 years ago, I started my own thing. And just for the record, Base, I have not updated Base in years. I actually transitioned it to another developer years ago because I hit a point where I was doing more web app security than intrusion detection and stuff like that. And I felt like I wasn't capable of maintaining the right feature set because it was not my day-to-day job anymore, right? And so I transitioned to another guy, and again, I'm blanking on his name. He's awesome. He's maintaining the product now. He is a project now. He did move it off of SourceForge. So he has a repo, so the repository on SourceForge as an announcement that says it's a dead project and points you over to the new one. So that's it. I think that's a babble of what I did.
So you just took me on a nostalgic trip down memory lane.
Good.
I used Acid and Base with Snort.
I'm so sorry.
No, but like worlds are colliding here.
Yeah,
because I'm like, this is the guy who like we were doing commercial managed security services at Exodus Communications like in 97, 98, 99. And we were using ISS Real Secure. We were using what was the other one? I can't remember what the other one was, but we were looking at Snort as a potential way to get rid of the commercial products and put an open source product in. But then we were looking at how to manage it. And so we were testing Acid and Base and like, wow, so this is just like, I'm telling you, worlds are colliding here. Like me in 1998 just like got a visit from me in 2023 and say, you're going to meet the guy who made this. Like it was a Back to the Future moment here.
Right.
Nice. And the funny part about it is like sometime when I was at InGuardians, Sans asked InGuardians to write a web pen testing course. And I'd like to say that I was chosen to do it as an InGuardians consultant because I was the best web app pen tester they had ever, and they asked me to write this class. And the reality was I was the consultant that wasn't on billable work that week. So I got assigned writing the course. And so most people who have dealt with me in the last 20 years, not that long, 15, somewhere between 15 and 18 years, they know me as a web app pen tester. Right, because Sans 542 and then the advanced course, I was the author of that as well. I was also the author of the original mobile security course for them. I'm no longer a Sans instructor, but I was for a number of years. And so most people think of me as a web app person, and they don't know about the 10 years before that I was part of Nanog and intrusion detection and network backbones and stuff like that. And so it's funny when like you said, like, oh, hey, wait a minute. So, yeah, I'm a nerd.
Very cool. So you mentioned about open source projects. So there's a project I think you've been a lead for a number of years, the OWASP project, the Samurai WTF. So take us through that. You know, what is it? How did you come up with the idea for that project?
No, you don't want to know how I came up with it. The way I came up with it was I didn't make it to DEF CON one year and I was bored. And so when you're bored, what do? You build Linux operating systems. And which sadly is a true story. Samurai WTF, which stands for Web Training Framework. When it was originally released, I think this might be the 15th or 16th anniversary of Samurai this year. Wow. I should have done something. On the first anniversary, I shipped swords to all the project people. Everybody involved in the project got a sword in the mail, which, by the way, I did learn that if you're going to ship swords to people, let them know they're coming. Because at least one of the people who got a sword, they were not home. They were traveling and their wife was home. And they were on the phone, and the wife said, hey, you got this odd-shaped box. And he said, well, open it. Like, I don't know. I wasn't expecting anything odd-shaped. And so she opened it, pulled the sword out, and she said, is this like a death threat, like a duel, like I challenge you. It can only be one.
Wow.
Yes.
So yes, don't send swords unsolicited to people.
I went
unless it's my house.
I went exactly where you were thinking, though. Like I'm thinking a Highlander thing going on here. Like maybe I'm a Highlander after all, and maybe everyone's
yeah. So Samurai WTF, which yes, we came up with the acronym first. Justin, Searle, and I were also going to write 2 other versions, which were Samurai RTFM and Samurai STFU. But the idea behind it was just to give people at that time a bootable CD. Yes, a bootable CD that gave them a Linux environment that had web pen testing tools pre-installed. Similar to Kali, right? How Kali has, and one of the things that I've got lots of things to say about Kali, but one of the things I've always felt about Kali that Kali is missing is the target environments, right? Like you overwhelm people with tools with Kali, and then go forth and hack. So with Samurai, we focused on web apps, APIs, mobile apps, whatever, and then we included target environments. And then over the years, we've realized that the training aspect is probably more important than the testing aspect. And so we've rebranded, still Samurai WTF, but we've rebranded it as the web training framework. And it is that. Right now, it's a virtual machine. So we moved from a bootable CD to a bootable DVD. And then we got to a point where we installed too many things for Squash FS to work. And so we became a virtual machine that you could use. And then we're actually working right now, and we're hoping to have the release sometime this month of what we will refer to as 6.0, because we're at 5.3 now. And we're converting the entire thing to just be a set of containers that you can spin up in any container management system. So you can stand it up in Azure and AWS, local Docker installs on your local machine. And we're doing that mainly because Macs suck. Apple made the genius idea of switching back to a non-Intel based chip. And we're running into support issues where, the M1 or M2 system can't run the Intel based operating system because VMware is not an emulator, it's a virtualization system. And so we're splitting it up so that we have we have a new project, sub project that's coming out called Shogun, which will be that the overarching Samurai project has a number of different parts to it. You have the base Samurai WTF, which is the Linux environment. It's a Vagrant. You use Vagrant to build it. And then you have Katana, which is a control system. And Katana lets you pick and choose which tools you install, which targets you install. It also allows you to stop and start the targets so that because you don't want to have everything running at one time. And bluntly, a lot of people that use Samurai, they're trying to learn. So controlling Linux daemons or containers is not what they know how to do. And so Katana is that. And then you have the Dojo collection of vulnerable apps, which is Dojo Basic, Dojo Scavenger. We have Dojo Basic 2 coming out. The Wayfarer project is another vulnerable app that's part of Samurai. Wayfarer is an entire intranet. One of the problems we've seen is that most vulnerable apps are not difficult to test. Like you get to a page called SQLi.php. What's it vulnerable to? Right. And so what we want to do with Wayfarer and have is we've built ticketing systems and we're expanding an intranet, all this, so that it actually acts like the internal network of an organization. And then you have the labs. Okay, now go find the problem with these pages and stuff like that.
So those vulnerable apps are you repurposing other people's vulnerable apps?
Yep.
Or okay, so they're not not creating all these from scratch. You're kind of collecting them, or both.
Both.
Okay.
So Wayfarer and Dojo Scavenger and Dojo Basic 2 are from scratch. Dojo Basic is a port of an old version of DVWA. And then we also have, so if you go into Katana, you have things like damn vulnerable web app, damn vulnerable web service, Matilda, wrong secrets, which is another OWASP project, things like that you can pull in that get installed. You also have all the different tools, right? So we have like Dan Meisler's and Jason Haddock's sec lists. We have Burp and Zap. We have just a whole bunch of different things like that. Right? So, and so it's funny. We regularly get alerts from GitHub that our project has a lot of vulnerabilities in it. And we've not figured out how to tell GitHub. Like, don't get me wrong. I like the idea of them telling me there's vulnerabilities
Definitely.
in the pieces that I don't want vulnerabilities in. The problem is
It's intentional.
it's telling me about the ones I do want vulnerabilities in. And there's no way for me to say, hey, that one's okay. We just ran into this problem. We just submitted Samurai. So Samurai is considered a lab level project at OWASP. And we submitted through the process to be approved as a production level project. What we'd like to be is flagship, but so we submitted to be production. And one of the questions that was asked, which is a good question, right, is are you fixing all vulnerabilities that are in the system? And I had to write no. I could have said yes and then argued semantics of we're fixing all of the, but the reality is no, we're not fixing all the vulnerabilities because we want some of them there.
There's already, Bjorn Kiminich's Juice Shop, there's already a precedent for that answer to be okay to you. I don't know if he's flagship. If they're flagship,
he's flagship. Okay. Juice Ship is a flagship project. Okay. So the difference between and I want to be clear, full disclosure, I am a project committee member. Okay. I'm actually the vice chair of the OWASP projects committee, which is funny because I submitted my project to be promoted. I've recused myself from assessing Samurai.
Stamp it.
Yes. Done. Yes, it's good. So the difference between flagship and production is nothing. From quality perspective, from anything like that. The difference is that the OWASP board has determined that project has a significant impact on the brand OWASP.
Got it.
And yes, it is as vague as that, right? So as a matter of fact, there is actually no process to take something from production to flagship. All of the current flagship projects have been grandfathered in. They were made flagship at some point in the past through some process. Since Andrew Vanderstock took over as the executive director, he's been trying to build more formal, which is good. I actually think that's a good thing. I've got some other complaints there, but that's I have to whine.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Samurai WTF, a little bit more detail before we switch gears. And so one of the things that the frames of reference we like to think about here at the Application Security Podcast is if there's a developer out there, they're listening and they're like, okay, this project that Kevin built sounds cool, Samurai WTF. What would the pathway look like for them to get the most value out of Samurai WTF? Like, walk us through what you would tell if you were sitting across from a developer and they asked you that question.
Yeah. So there's two paths I would take them through, and I would actually recommend that they do both. Okay. So the first path is I want to use Samurai WTF as a way for me to learn application security, right? So very simple. You would install Samurai WTF, and you can do it one of two ways. You can either download an existing virtual machine that we have built, or you can pull the code. And if you're running Vagrant already, you can do a Vagrant up, and it will actually do a fresh build of the latest version of everything at that point. And then you would log in. Once you log in, and it's a very, very secure password. The username is Samurai, and the password is Samurai. And I joke that it's secure, but it really is because most people can't spell samurai correctly, including me. I regularly typo that one as I'm trying to log in. Excuse me. Once you log in, I would open a terminal and run Katana, the Katana command. And the easiest thing to do is say Katana space list, and it will list everything that it can install. Because by default, it's a bare bones system, right? And then most people, I would tell them to do Katana install Katana, which is a stupid command that installs the web interface for Katana, because that's typically easier for people just getting started to use. You don't have to. And then you do Katana start Katana, and you hit the website, right? It gives you a URL that you can go to and open it up. And then I would pick the vulnerable apps that I was interested in. If you've never done this before, I would start with something like Matilda or DVWA. They are both environments to let you test while giving you tutorials on how to test it. The other thing I would do is, this is not a Samurai project, but it is the Professional Evo Web App Pen Testing 101 course. It is a completely free and open source 6-day web pen testing course that may or may not be 542 from SAMS. So completely open source, completely free. You're able to download that. And then that will teach you how to use some tools. It is an older course. And that's what I would do. I would start practicing the techniques, understanding the technology, stuff like that. That's the first path. The second path, I would say, is I'm a really big believer that one of the best ways to get involved in learning security is to actually contribute back to the project. Right? You don't have to be a developer to do that. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't know how to code. I don't care. There's lots you can do. We are constantly looking for people to help write code. We're constantly looking for people to help write documentation. If you've got a tool that you like, building a YAML file so that Katana can install that tool, if it's something we don't use already, is a great contribution. We are also about to release a new version of Katana that is internationalized. I don't know if that's the right phrasing there. And so we're going to look for people who can help translate things because I barely speak English. So I'm not the person to have translate stuff. And then that way, by contributing, you're leveraging whatever skill set you have, whatever thing you're already experienced with, but you are immersing yourself in to the security stuff and everything else like that. And I find time and time again that the best security people I know are the people that also understand how the system runs, how it was built, how it functions, right? It's not enough to just say, hey man, I hacked that thing. It's, I hacked the thing and here's why, and this is what it did. And here, so that's why I say the two paths I'd recommend. I don't believe they're mutually exclusive. I actually recommend doing both, but it's your choice. Is play with it, install it, learn, but also contribute, help, be part of the project.
So you mentioned OWASP, and we're definitely fans of OWASP. Chris and I, we've been involved for many years. I know, like you have as well. So there's an interesting announcement we just heard about Zap leaving OWASP.
Yeah, it's good of you not to say OWASP Zap, which is a habit I have to break.
Already using the new branding. Look at that. That was good.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. That was good. Simon would be happy. Yeah. So Zap joined SSF,
Software Security Foundation.
Yeah. Yes, which is part of the Linux Foundation, part of the OSSF. So I am thrilled Simon has got a full-time job running Zap. I am bothered that Zap left OWASP, but I am bothered not because Simon and his team made the choice. I'm bothered because Simon and his team felt that was the only choice they could make. That I'm going to preface this with, I am a lifetime member of OWASP. I paid for a lifetime membership. I am a project lead on multiple projects that we have pushed in through the OWASP Foundation. I am the vice chair of the project committee and used to run the Jacksonville chapter. I also speak at lots of OWASP events, and the company I work for is a corporate member, and we pay for membership for every single one of our employees. I am saying that not to brag about what I have done at OWASP, but to say that OWASP is fundamentally broken, and I don't know why. Here's how I know it's fundamentally broken. Let me ask you a question. I'm going to put you on the spot, and it's your podcast, so you can either edit this out or tell me to shut up and you won't answer the question. Totally up to you, right? You said that both of you are involved in OWASP. Are you paid members?
Lifetime.
Lifetime.
Good.
Yep.
Good. Okay. Now let me ask you a question. OWASP, the creation of the OWASP Top 10, which is referenced in things like PCI and federal regulation, has tens of thousands of people involved in projects. Hundreds of thousands of people download their projects and use their projects every day. How many paid members do you think they have?
How many paid members for OWASP in general, or
how many people do you believe have paid
for paid?
membership?
I know this. Actually, I've seen this number fly by. I want to say 4,000 or 6,000 or something like that. Is that right,
Robert? Do you have a different guess?
Yeah, mine was around 5,000, something like that. I thought I've heard.
Yeah, it's somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000, if I remember correctly. It changes, obviously.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I mean, there just hasn't been an incentive unless you're a super fan like we are, and I'd say you're probably more of a super fan than we are, even. But Robert and I both contributed to projects.
I don't know that I'm more of a super fan, but I'll go with it, right?
I mean, you're leading you're leading different projects and stuff. But the point is, all of us are super fans of OWASP. Like, we believe in it.
Right.
Like, we
I believe we should be giving back. I think we should be doing this stuff. So my question is this. We know that Simon left because of funding, right? He said that. And this has been a topic going on for a while now. It's actually one of the ones that I have publicly spoken about. There was a letter put forward. Mark Curfey and Simon were two of the people that pushed it. Simon is one of my favorite people. I want to be very clear. I do not want anybody to take away from this that I don't like Simon or that I'm unhappy with the choice he made. I'm not. Mm-hmm. I'm thrilled for him. I wish we could have done that for him, right? But there has been a push for the last, year that OWASP has to figure out how to help fund chapters and projects and promote itself to the community. And I believe that push is wrong. It's not because I think the push to get funding for things is wrong. I think it's focused on the wrong problem. There is zero capability of OWASP to fund. Two of the ZAP project leads now have full-time jobs building ZAP. That is beautiful. Mm-hmm. That is awesome. That is so wonderful, in my opinion. But they had to leave OWASP to have that happen because OWASP can't afford that. OWASP can't do it. And the reason OWASP can't do it, in my opinion, again, Kevin's opinion, is because we have somewhere between 4,000 and 6,000 members that are paying $50 a year. That's it. And the three of us, we all paid $500, ignoring the other memberships I paid for, ignoring the corporate sponsorship, which means that if you and I have been members for 10 years, we're now not giving them enough money, right? And I'm not, right? And I have been a member long enough that right? So in my opinion, the thing we have to fix first, and I believe this will help fix the things like Simon leaving and stuff like that, is we have to figure out why people don't pay for membership.
Well, I mean,
we have to figure out, and
there's no incentive, right? Like what?
But there is an incentive.
But what? There's not a clear value proposition though to even the people that were in, so I run the Raleigh Durham chapter here in Raleigh. Yeah. And when we were still meeting in person, most of the people there weren't members because there really wasn't an incentive for them. I could doing a membership drive was like, hey, you should become a member. Okay, what do I get?
Why?
You get to come here and eat
email
pizza.
Address.
Yeah, and you get eat pizza.
You get an email address. Yeah, you get an email address at OWASP.org because, I need another email address. Exactly. I get the ability to vote in the elections. Yep, right. Okay, that's great, right? I'm pro-democracy, but yeah, we don't have, and OWASP, and I'm not saying they're wrong to do this, but OWASP is very, very leery of how they deal with like member benefits, member discounts, things like that, because they don't want to promote an individual company, which I understand. I'm not disagreeing with that. But yeah, I think that the biggest problem we have right now, and I predict, and this is not much of a prediction, I predict we are going to lose a significant number of other projects because I've been working on Samurai for 15 plus years. I started base in 2002. I've been doing various open source projects since then. The only money I've ever gotten, other than the one guy that sent me like $20 to the base project, which I had to refund because my accountant flipped out. Like, no, you can't take money for that. Right? Has been because jobs I worked at were willing to fund it. And of course, for the last 13 years, I own the company that's willing to fund my development. Like my Twitter account says, my opinions are my employers. So until we fix that problem, OWASP is going to continue to fail.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it ultimately is going to require the board to change the opinion of the amount of pushing that's going to happen. I
personally believe that the board should be let go. I think that I love Andrew Vanderstock. He's a great guy. I think that what we have seen over the last couple of years is OWASP and OWASP corporate have been like that. And that is one of the key problems that until we fix that, we're not going to be able to fix the other.
Yeah.
But that's a Kevin being pissy.
That's okay. We're lifetime members. We have a say in this, though. Like, this is our.
I'm allowed to be pissy.
Yeah, but this is our kind of thing. Like, we should be able to have opinions about it, and yeah, I mean, in my opinion as well. Like, I'm happy for Simon. I'm happy for the project. I'm happy the fact that they're gonna. Same thing you said. I'm happy they're gonna get paid for doing this because they've spent tens of thousands, 50,000. I don't know. They've spent a lot of time on this thing,
all their time,
all of it. And so now they're going to get, every week goes by, they will go up in 0.0001% of time they've been paid for doing the project. But it does point to the fact that what Curfew was pushing for, and he ran for the board, was trying to do, but
he had to bring up Curfew.
But his platform, he came on our podcast and he shared his platform. The fact that he wanted to find a way to fund projects, and then he quit. But he quit because he didn't see a way to get to that. And so now he started. I'll let you give. I want to hear your take as well. But and the way I see it is, he went to SSF and they started this thing because they didn't see a way to do it in the OWASP universe right now. Which I wish they did. Like, I hate the fact we're going to have two things, but we're
always going to have two things. Yeah, I'm gonna give you my opinion, and I want to make it very clear. This is Kevin's opinion, and Kevin is a jerk. I am disgusted with what Mark Curfew did by running for the board, because I believe the entire thing was a scam, specifically to kickstart SSF. I believe that Mark ran on a platform that I happen to agree with. He joined the board long enough to say, I gave it the good old college try, and then he quit to finish founding SSF. I believe that his ultimate goal was exactly what he did, and that was to become the founding member of SSF and have that kick-started by the fact that he was fighting the man and fixing. I don't know that is fair of me, but I do not believe that Mark had any intent of serving out his entire term as a board member.
But I mean, what's the incentive though? Like, what would be his? What does he get out of going into OWASP and spending a year talking?
He didn't spend a year
or 6 months,
like 2 months.
Okay,
right. So let me ask you a question. Before he ran for the board, when was the last time you talked about Mark Curfew?
When we had,
He was one of the founding
yeah, I
members.
mean,
of
he had,
Yeah,
I mean, when we
founding.
did the interview with him, he admitted he had drifted away. When I can tell you the time when I actually learned about him was when we had Jeff Williams do an episode, and we asked him for the history lesson of OWASP, because I really wanted to know it. I wanted to know what happened in the early days, and so that's when he was talking about Mark, and I'm like, wait, there was a Mark that was part of this, because like
Exactly.
I only picked it up when Jeff and Dave from Aspect were. Appeared to be pushing it forward, right? And so,
right, and I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying, yes, in my opinion, Mark had drifted away from the industry, the AppSec, OWASP, everything else like that, and that by running for the board, and I don't know that I'm right. This is just Kevin's. I'm pissy, right? Is that Mark realized that for him to kickstart a thing that I hope is successful, I really do. I want open source to benefit. I like the idea of while I don't need funding for my projects, because I've been lucky and blessed with being able to fund them myself, and right like that. I want developers who are slaving over things, people who have project ideas, to be able to come forward and say, I can't do this on my own. I need somebody to help me. I need somebody to sponsor me. I want that for people. So I love what SSF is doing in theory. But I do believe that Mark ran for the board specifically because I don't believe that Mark is a very smart person. And I don't believe he was malicious. I'm not saying, oh, that jerk, right? I believe that he realized very soon when he started getting back into it that there was no way OWASP was going to shift at any level of the speed that he needed it or wanted it to happen. And so what he did was he leveraged running for the board to be able to kickstart the other. And that's why I think because like I said, he's smart. He looked at OWASP and said, yes, we can't fix this as fast as I want to.
Yeah.
So let me start something new. And the way to kickstart it is to say, I give up. I can't do this. You guys are, stuck in the mud. Let me go do this.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm right. That's Kevin's opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's something that we should definitely try to understand better. And I can say, like, when you think about OWASP now and SSF, there's nothing better for innovation than competition. Like, there's a reason we have monopoly laws in the United States of America. Yeah, I can't just go take a company, buy all the other companies in the market, in the same market, and then 10x my price because I have the full. So competition is a good thing back and forth. And maybe this will spur OWASP to move quicker because they're saying, hey, now we've got, if we start losing more projects, then maybe that 4,000 to 6,000 members start to go, well, maybe I should go to the other side of this where all the cool projects appear to be moving. And so and I think it could help. It could be a benefit here.
Yeah. And if you look at it as a member, if you were renewing your membership every year and you could only afford one membership, would you rather your membership go to a foundation that is not then taking that money that you can see? I want to be very clear. OWASP spends their money on lots of good things, right? But if you have a choice between a foundation that your money goes directly to the developers of the projects somehow, or to a foundation that has this amorphous idea of what they do, which would you do? And I don't know. I'm not saying they pick one or the other. I'm saying that, yes, people will be making that decision. Yeah. And that will be a key divider for many people.
Yeah, because I mean, the worst thing that could happen here is OWASP goes out of business.
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't, and the reason I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. One, I think OWASP is a great organization. I've had people say to me before, "Oh, you must hate OWASP." But no, I love OWASP. Yeah. It's why I do as much as I do with them. But I think that there are too many things that reference OWASP, like PCI. PCI literally says in their standards, teach your developers the OWASP top 10. Right? So I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But yeah, I think that's the biggest. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, I could see a world where if other projects started to migrate, OWASP is very good at the conference side, at community and bringing people together from that perspective. But I would hate to see OWASP become the conference event group. And SSF.
So you're saying OWASP would become ISS squared?
I'm saying I don't want. I hope this is not a prediction that I want to come true. I'm just saying this is that I could see when you have two entities and the projects are migrating in one direction, I don't imagine that the SSF is going to. They couldn't catch up to the conference steam that OWASP has. They're far to the, they're the snowball that's almost at the bottom of the hill. They've been running for a long time. Like, it would take SSF time to get up to speed on that. But yeah, I mean, this is an interesting problem. Like, it's
I'd like to see it fixed, but I don't know if it.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of those cases where I'm one of those people you hate because I point out what I think is wrong, and then say, "Man, that sucks."
Well, there's going to be a board election.
I don't have a solution.
There's going to be a board election coming up here in, I don't know if it's this year or the next year, if anybody's rolling in. So there's going to be an opportunity for people to step forward.
Yeah. So, but I do think that what I just said also answers one of the questions you got.
I was going to skip over that question. Your most controversial take on application security. Check.
Yeah.
That one's already
I think my most controversial take is that Mark Murphy leveraged the board election to start his own foundation. Yeah. And I like Mark. I think he's a great guy.
All right. Well, we can skip, Robert, I think, right to that second one. Why don't you tee up that second one?
Sure. What would it say if you could put a single message on a billboard ad inside of the RSA or Black Hat conference?
Okay, so inside of RSA or Black Hat, stop going to RSA, Black Hat, and SANS.
No, Kevin, you already used the controversial take. You cannot have two.
That's not a no. I agree with you because that's not controversial.
You got to explain. Normally, we don't stop to explain, but you got to give us a little bit of context on that.
I personally believe that one of the things that is bad about our industry is the sheer number of $8,000 conferences that provide vendor benefit. And I'm a vendor. I think if you were new to the industry, and the number of people I've talked to in the last month who are like, "Hey man, I'm getting started," because I get that call all the time. "Kevin, help me. How do I get into the field?" And the number of them are like, "Yo, yeah, I'm going to Black Hat," and I'm like, "Why?" Right, like, or I signed up for a SANS class. How did you afford it? But right, and don't get me wrong. There's really great things at Black Hat. There's great instructors at SANS. There's RSA, and so there's good speakers at RSA. How's that? But for the cost, for the sheer amount of spam you're going to get afterwards, right? You could go to one B-Sides and engage in a glorious community. You could go to one local conference, or even I pitch of the day. I go and speak and keynote at events all the time, right? If and that's not I'm going to sell you something. If you need a speaker, have me come up, right? I'm willing to do it. And people say I'm good at it. I don't think so. I hate the way I present, but other people disagree. And I go to these conferences, and the sheer joy and euphoria to be involved in the field that you get at them is worth every bit of it. And that's so. Yeah, my billboard would be: don't go to RSA, Black Hat, or SANS.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
And we can add other ones if you want. Those just
No, it's good. I get it. I get what you're saying about the B-Sides community nature, the low cost. It's a better, because I mean, think about it. Like, what really defines where we go in this industry? It's the community we build. It's the people we meet. Yeah. It's the people that we ask to mentor us. It's the people we act as the mentor for. Like, that's really what's important, is that level.
It's one of the reasons why every single time I see the absolute sheer misogyny that comes up in certain communities related to InfoSec, the absolute bigoted language that we see, it's disgusting. Yeah. And that is not InfoSec, except it is, because we're not actively calling it out, right? It makes me so angry to see the badness, right? That we should, I say all the time, I'm a fat, straight, white guy that's 50 years old. So I have every bit of the privilege that we are supposed to have, and that we call out. And if people like you and I aren't saying, "Hey, stop being a dick," to the people who are being that, then we're just as bad. And that's why I love the B-Sides community. That's why I love, because you can get there and you can have every type of person involved in a room talking about stuff and hanging out, and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
I love it.
Very good.
So,
well, let's go. Let's give you a chance here for a key takeaway or a call to action. So what do you want our audience to do as a result of our conversation here?
I want you to be the person you want to be. There's too many people that stick back, don't get involved because they're afraid to get involved. They are so focused on the day job that they hate, whatever. Take the chance. Reach out and become involved. Don't let the jerks keep you down. And I know that's easy for me to say, like I said, but and that's my key takeaway. Be who you want to be. And if you need something, call me. Email me. I'm here. Tweet at me, blue sky at me. I don't know what the right word is anymore. I did see somebody that after Twitter became X, that somebody posted that we should call them excretions, and I thought that was hilarious.
That might be the best one. Yeah. That might be the best one.
But yeah, be who you want to be, and reach out. Will help.
Very cool. So Kevin, thank you for sharing your perspectives on all these different things. It has truly been a blast just to interact with you and just talk about these things. I mean, you started by taking me down memory lane. So, I mean, that was the beginning of this conversation. I always love a bit of nostalgia because I'm also about to turn 50. So you and I are about this. Probably grew up in the same realm of technology. Robert, we're all in the same. We're all in the same group there. But it's been a
2400 baud modem.
Yeah, it's been a joy.
I appreciate it, man. I had a blast.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll do it again. We'll do it again sometime in the next year or so. We'll bring you back just because I just want to talk to you about interesting things.
Cool.
All right, man.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.